Hello, Ascension Network. It's Vidette Mayer here. Today is Monday, December 7th, and I have to tell you, I wanted to do a recording and a video to give a little bit of an update on the Ascension process, what's going on energetically and in our world and around our planet, and consciously what we're all kind of facing at the moment. And the word facing implies challenge and what we're up against kind of things, that kind of energy. And to me personally, it kind of does feel like that. And because of that, I wanted to share openly with my own process with Ascension. And really, when I talk about Ascension, it's really the process of increasing our frequency, our emotional vibration, that in which we operate, that place, that energy in which we operate. And the more that we ascend to higher levels of frequency, the more then we can see, the more then we can perceive from. It's as if we are ascending up a mountain, and with every vista point we come to, we see more than we could when we were a little bit lower on the vibrational scale or perspective scale. And that's really what my process daily is, to ascend to a higher level of frequency than I operated in yesterday. And really, because I then model that for my kids, it feels better. Life feels like I'm not facing things as much, as opposed to kind of flowing with things. The higher that I operate in emotional intelligence and from a frequency energetic space, the more cleansed I am, the more I continue to purge old patterns, old paradigms, old beliefs, old limitations, the more that clearer I get on why I'm here, what my purpose is, the clearer I get, then I ascend to higher levels of perspective. And from that space, I see more and more stuff in the world that's revealed from a higher level than I used to look at it, that I want to change. And I want to change it in how it shows up in my life, and I want to change it in how it shows up in the lives of humanity as a collective. So when I'm here giving updates on my own ascension process and what it is like, I share so that you understand that you too are in the ascension process, whether you're conscious of it or not. That's always the question. I'm consciously creating my ascension, my increase in frequency, my increase in consciousness, however you want to put it. I'm calling it the ascension process, but whatever it is, we are all navigating it, and I consciously do it so I can pick and choose which behaviors I adopt, what I let go of, how I upgrade those, because I want to upgrade all of my ways of being in a level, in a way, in an upgrade that leads me to a higher version of myself. That's what this ascension process is all about. And what I have found is, in the last couple of weeks of doing the different pyramid readings for the month of December 2020, the last few weeks have been incredibly intense energetically. We had the lunar eclipse on the 30th of November. We're going into a solar eclipse in the December 14th. Then we go into the winter solstice on the 21st, and at that same time, we have the grand conjunction of Saturn and Venus crossing paths. That they will almost look like in the night sky that they are one, and it'll look like the Star of Bethlehem. This 21st, this winter solstice of 2020 is the first time in 6,000 years that a couple of different phenomena has happened at the same time, and that is that grand conjunction, as well as this ascension into the age of Aquarius. We are crossing the line into a new age. So as I'm going through here today, I'm shuffling some cards because I want to give you some things to look out for this week. We are really needing to ground into the energy that we're in, which is very intense at the moment. So we as humans, as souls, are going through this physical existence, and consciously we know that this ascension process is in full swing. It's like it's nearing almost the end, to where we step over and cross over the line. So, it's just like when you run a marathon, those last 50 yards or so, and actually I speak as if I'm speaking from experience. I've never run a marathon, so I'm going to be honest with you, but the analogy that I will use is, those last 50 yards are always, the hardest, because you can see that finish line and you've run so far already. This ascension process feels very different, or very, very much the same. It's been, a steady run, a steady growth, steady consciousness. And that takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of focus and discipline to live like that. And I know the last year, or the last decade of my own life, it's literally been putting one step in front of the other, but knowing that the intention in that step is that I've grown, grown just a little bit more than when I took the last step. And that takes a lot of focus. And now that I don't say that on the 21st, all of a sudden I've made it, or that you will, you make it. It's just that we literally enter into a whole new age, and we start with a clear path, and I am cleansing and detoxing. This is what this massive energy push is for these last few weeks, is literally to detox us of the impurities and denseness that are still, resounding within us, that are still sitting there. These dense emotions and energies are those things that we haven't dealt with. Those things that we keep saying, you know what, I'm just going to pretend that doesn't exist, or I'm going to get pissed off at that one more time and let it go before I do anything about it. But how many times you've just let it go is now catching up with you, and it's just it just sits there real heavy, knowing that you're going to have to deal with it. And since the summer, when I started doing a lot of these readings, we've been urged, and we have been I'm trying to avoid the word pushed, but almost pushed to deal with the stuff you haven't wanted to deal with, because if you haven't done it yet, it's going to deal with itself over these next few weeks. And if it chooses to reveal itself before you actually intend to bring it to light, it's going to be more painful. So that right now, I wanted to let you know that we are being asked to really start cleansing and really start clearing and doing the work. And I have been doing that same thing on my end with some matters in my own personal life, and it's been extremely painful. And at the same time, what I'm finding is it doesn't last very long. I've always said that because that's been my experience, but I'm reliving it all again, so it's pretty raw. And breath work has been my saving grace when I kind of feel consumed with anxiety over some of these matters that I'm attempting to clear and detox out of my energetic body finally. And in doing so, I'm finding that I'm actually losing weight, physical weight, which is quite interesting. I've also, some of the symptoms, so to speak, that I have experienced is some massive, intense migraines. I say it plural, but I've had one. And it was last week, and y'all, I'm telling you, it took me down. It took me down like no other migraine has ever taken me down. So I say that only because I knew in consciously maneuvering that migraine, which I was writhing in pain. I was surrendering to it, but it hurt so bad it was immediate resistance. And then I would find myself in resistance and surrender to it and allow it to go, and then right away step right back into resistance. It was literally a battle. And I knew consciously going through it what it was. It was a lot of cleansing and clearing of some pretty heavy stuff. It was also an integration. It was happening all at once. So I was literally purging a lot of the energy that was getting kind of uprooted by some of the life events that are happening. And, working and clearing a lot of that old stuff that I knew had to be cleared, and maybe I waited and procrastinated on it a little bit, but now it's coming to the point where I wasn't able to just let it be there. I consciously chose to shake it up, and a couple days later this migraine came purging happened. I had to purge literally out of my stomach some of that old denseness. At the same time, I also, my guides was with my guides during this process, and they kept reassuring me that the other thing also at the same time that was happening was an integration process. So it was an integration of the higher version of me that was being birthed in that evening, as the purging kind of like allowed the last version of my old self to be purged. I was also integrating into a higher level of myself, and that also it can be painful. It was painful in that moment because that's the emotion I just was in and experiencing in the moment. It was physical pain. So the integration showed up as that. Sometimes if it's not involving pain, you might find that the day or the evening where you're integrated by your own guides, a lot of times you'll find yourself waking up almost exhausted, or I've explained it as feeling hungover, just like, when, back in the day when I would party and come home, like the next day I'd have the stupids and I couldn't put a sentence together and I was just exhausted and my eyes burned because I just wanted to be closed. Integration happens like that. You'll know you've been integrated on an energetic level by your guides if you wake up in the morning and you've slept, but you're like, gosh, I slept, but I still feel exhausted and I feel tired and I feel hungover. I feel disconnected. A lot of times that will be the integration. So the evening that I experienced that migraine, it was purging and also integration kind of happening all at once. And their explanation to me was like, you were already in it, so we might as well just we're going to shock your system into integration as well. So I want to pull a card real quick. I've been shuffling as we've kind of set the tone for this call and into what we can expect for this week. There's some weird animal making. Oh, it's a squirrel. He's making a noise I've never heard. I'm outside, y'all. It's the most gorgeous day in Austin. I'll put a picture up. But it's the sun is coming through the trees so beautifully. I live in a little tree house, and I do a lot of my work and recordings outside because I like to bring in nature, and I'm sure you can hear some birds in the background, but also I kept hearing this noise, and I finally located the culprit, and it's this little squirrel just staring down at me in this tree, but I've never heard him make a noise like that. It's not really a chirping. The first card that comes out for us on a spiritual, I'm doing kind of an elemental reading. So the spiritual part is the fire. What is the thing to keep in mind this week creatively, in that burning? And what came up is baby steps. Action, follow your intuition before it makes sense. And what I have known 100% the ascension process to be for me, those times when it has been like massive growth, a choice, a decision, and all of a sudden massive growth comes, it can be extremely overwhelming. And I know that for my own life, we are choosing some massive upgrades in our lives as a family, and it's really, really overwhelming at this point. So to be doing these massive like physical, logistical changes at the same time when the energy is so intense right now, I have to keep coming back to focus. And that's what this, this card, the baby steps is telling us, to take small action right now with the intensity of life being where it is. Take baby steps. Taking 1 inch forward, take a step an inch forward is a lot more than doing nothing all day because you're paralyzed by the feelings or the overwhelmment or the I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I don't know what the world is doing kind of feeling. Don't just stay put. Move, shuffle your feet a little bit, even if you have to. Just take baby steps. And if you have no idea, this morning I literally sat outside with my husband. I was drinking our coffee. We were sitting out on the curb. We have this sweet little like curb set up, and we sit outside and people walk by and we say hi, and I drink coffee and we just chitty chat in the mornings. And I was saying, like, honey, I don't even know what to focus on this morning. I'm so overwhelmed with, like, all of it. Like, do I work on the changes? Do I work on business stuff? Do I do a post? I had all of the stuff that, like, needed to be done and wants to be done and I don't want to do, and it's all of it, And I was like, I just can't choose what I'm going to focus on. And he finally just said, choose one. And that was to be here with you on this recording, because I knew it was a baby step, and I knew it would help me clear some of all of this stuff that's been confusing me. And the thought process was intuitively, if I'm confused, that means someone else is confused. And if my confusion and how I'm working through it can help someone by just taking a baby step and recording all of this, then that gets me moving one baby step. So thank you for being part of my baby step. Now it's your turn to take a baby step. And what is yours to do? What does your intuition want you to do? Take that to support yourself creatively. Start to really pay attention to what your heart wants to do this week and do that. And that has also been very much the guidance from the cards on all kinds of readings that I've done in these last few weeks. It literally is like, right now, it's like, what does your heart want to do? Do that. That's where our attention is. Now, if we go into the next card, this one's going to be, what did I do here? Sorry, guys. The next card is going to be the water card, the emotions. And what comes out here is a longing for home, homesick, for the stars, the Hierith. What comes up for me on this, as far as water, the emotional sign, we're longing for something. Some people I've heard say, I have a longing for normal. I have we went out in nature over the weekend and had an amazing, we just got out in nature, y'all. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be around crowds. I don't want to be in a mask. I don't want to be I don't want to be where I have to participate in all of that. So we've been getting out into nature for the last few days. I mean, walking, hiking, bike riding. And yesterday we did the same thing, and I was talking to my boys and my husband, and I was saying, man, I just have a longing for how and it wasn't for how it used to be. It's just the longing of community again. And I think that's been so severed this year. So the longing for me, the longing for home, is a longing for people like yourself who are going through this process in some of the weirdest times we've ever had, but also some of the most exciting times. The fact that as humans, we get to step over this threshold here in a couple of weeks on the solstice that hasn't been felt on Earth by a human in 6,000 years. That's insane. That's insanely crazy that we're here for this, and I'm excited about it, and I'm honored by it, and I want to experience this whole process with people who are in the process with me, and that's exciting. And yet, it feels like they're few and far between, because and I think we're all in that boat. If we're in this ascension process and navigating it consciously, where all of a sudden we talk to somebody and think, oh my gosh, they don't see everything that I see, so therefore we're not talking about the same reality. And there's been much more for me, this year has been a year of growth beyond anything I've ever experienced in 1 year's, one linear lifetime, 1 linear year. What I have experienced in growth is literally, I don't think I've ever experienced, in a culmination of such a short amount of time. So who I was at the beginning of this year, I can't even connect to anymore. I don't know who she is. So the people that I came in contact with and connected with from that place is very much different now, and those people I don't connect with as much, and so our communities are completely reformulating now, and in that space it's very lonely. So we have this homesickness. We feel homesick for our communities and for connection, and because this has to do with emotions, our emotional self. It's really a reminder to come back to ourselves and reestablish our groundedness and our ways and our place of being as our home. And when we're tuned in to the home of which we are here now. We are not the home. We're longing for something that no longer exists, because we are completely different now than we were a week ago or a year ago. So right now, from this space, we are home. We are the best version of the home that we've been so far, and we're stepping into and revamping that. And while we're in the work, in the process of revamping, we then start to let go of longing and invite in a vision, and we start to envision what home is moving forward. And that then allows us to question then emotionally and feel into what is it that we want our physical home to be? What is it that we would want our health and well-being home to be? What is the set point? What do we want our emotional home to be? For me, I want it to be at least love or above, so that when I'm navigating daily life with 2 teenagers in the house, I'm coming from a place of love and not coming from an older version of myself that might answer from a place of anger or frustration or overwhelmed. So we're, of all the places we find ourselves at home, whether it's relationships or communities or work, career, finances, what is our set point, and what are we envisioning ourselves to step into? So that when we become clear of that this week, we can move into the mind, to the intellect, to the air element. And from that place, the card that comes up is the 7 Star Sisters, birthing creations, the tapestry of life, expression. Yeah, when we are clear with what our vision is of home and what we're creating, the intellect then catches up from taking a baby step from our spiritual creative self and into that water, that creative emotional self. We start to let go of longing and adapt into the new vision of what home means from here on out, until we get to the next push for us to rebirth another version of ourselves. For now, we are birthing into a new version, and intellectually, the card that came up is the 7 sisters, the Pleiades. They are birthing creations together. They dance intimately. All of these energies together, these communal and primal energies come together to birth in these new visions that you've created this week, because you've gotten clearer and clearer on what those are. You start to weave the next tapestry of your life. Like, what's the next design that starts to reveal itself on your tapestry of your life? What is this new creation as we enter into the age of Aquarius and we start to walk those final steps of the age of Pisces? What is it that you're creating into this abundant, this energy of the age of Aquarius that is ripe with the space, the void, the space to create what it is you want? So this is a whole new age to walk into and create a whole new tapestry. That's what feels so overwhelming and intense right now, is we're being asked to choose what is it we're creating. I just paused to take a sip of my water. I'm going to chew on my ice cube and let you know that as I was talking about that, this tiny little white feather came floating down right in front of me, maybe about 10 yards off of where I'm standing on the balcony. So guides are here. Your guides are here. If you're listening to this, your guides are hearing this, and it's so beautiful to be able to share this moment. And I'm going to choose one last card, and that's for the earth sign. How does all of this show up in the physical for this week? The intensity of this is all about you're not alone. Isolation, physical connection, and community. We've been talking about community. I think that's a void that many of us are feeling, that just whenever we don't want to just go out into the world and be around people, because that's not community. But when we are connecting with people, or in the Ascension network, I love to get in there and chitty chat. Some of our the abundance codes readings that I do, or activations that I do every Wednesday, in the Ascension Network is such a beautiful collaborative space to come together, and whatever the codes are for that week that are being activated as a collective, we tap into those, and whoever's on the call, we collaborate on what is the codes that are coming in, and we activate them together. We purge outdated abundance codes. And abundance shows up in a lot of different ways. It's a frequency, so how abundance shows up in all different ways in our lives is directly connected to how abundant you are in your relationships, in your career and finances, in your health and well-being. So abundance shows up in a lot of different ways. Therefore, when we come together on Wednesdays to talk about these abundance codes, to activate and upgrade them, and to purge outdated, limited ones, those communities, those minds that come together, that's the community that is being created here. That's the community of people who are talking the same language, who come together, and it feels like we're hard to find, but we are communing and we are doing the work together. That's why I'm passionate about building this Ascension Network, so we can invite more people into this community and have this conversation, so that when we're really looking for community, we go out into our world, into our neighborhood, and we're trying to establish some kind of connection, and we start talking, and people start talking to us about the things that we have a higher perspective of, telling us about the different issues and problems going on in the world. And as a higher consciousness, we understand that that's because of the collective, and we have to change ourselves first. So to start to have that conversation takes it much deeper than most people can go. We want to have these deeper conversations, and that's what you're being called into this week. That'll start to dispel some of the intensity and lighten some of the intensity of how we're feeling, because first of all, you're going to know that you're not alone. You're going to know that there are other people, there are other communities that are experiencing the same thing you are. I know that I am, friend. I'm not exaggerating when I'm telling you that, like, I've had to breathe through more anxiety this past week than I have in a very, very long time. Just because I do what I do and I understand what's happening doesn't mean that on a physical level I don't feel anxiety creep up sometimes and have to use the tools. And those tools are different from me. Those tools are different from someone else. They're different from you. And when we all come together and say, I felt anxiety and this is what I did, this is how it worked, and this is what I learned from it, and this is how I grew from it. So at the end of the day, when I moved through that anxiety, I looked back at myself at the beginning of the morning and I was like, oh, good job, girl. I've grown. I'm a higher version because we navigated that. Not many people can do that. Not many people can say at the end of the day, I grew because I actually sat and gave myself permission to feel this anxiety that's creeping up. And I looked at it and I went down deep with it, and I realized at the end of the day, it was really nothing. It was about nothing. It was nothing that was affecting me in this moment. So it wasn't real, but it took me a little bit to get there. But I did the work. I hung out with it. I faced it. I felt it. Didn't feel good. But at the end of the day, I go to bed knowing, really, I'm just fine. What if you had those conversations with people? Doesn't it seem like they would be a lot easier, and they would put you in a state of flow because you would know that you do have support. You do have community. That's what the Ascension Network is about. It's about inviting all of us in to tell our stories, to share our stories of ascension. What are we experiencing, so we can each learn from each other? Because this stuff isn't easy. It's necessary, because we are the ones, folks, that are literally going to hold the hands of millions and millions and millions as they start to ascend higher and see new perspectives and learn the illusions they've been living in and the limitations. And then they're going to say, what do I do now? They're going to look for a community of people who said, I know what you're going through. I've felt that. I've been there. I'm going to hold you by the hand. I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you. And you're going to get here faster than I did because I had to go the long route. We are those people. We are the support. We are the masters. But we can only master it by literally consciously navigating it with each other in this community. This week is all about community. Find it. Join us. Bring your friends. Let's start having these deeper conversations. Thank you for being here with me. I so appreciate it. I love you all. Thank you for listening, whether you're, one person or you've been back here more, many times. I appreciate it. I hope to have you back. I'm grateful for the ears that listen to this. I'm grateful for your heart. I'm grateful that we are connected in this recording, in this video, in this podcast, however we get connected. I'm grateful for it, because if we are connected, it means that your heart and your soul is aligned and in resonance with mine. And because of that, I honor you. I honor our hearts. I honor our minds that brought us together in this collective. And I know from this space where two or more are gathered, we do have the power and the energy to rise up into a rising that has not been seen in any humanity so far. We are the rising of individuals who consciously choose to ascend into higher levels of being, so that we can truly be a divine source of information and wisdom in the world, that we act and walk the walk, talk the talk, so that others see what is possible. And I'm so grateful for this mission. I'm so grateful for this work. I'm so grateful for the souls that come into my life, because I'm saying yes to sharing my journey. And I invite you to do the same. Thank you for being here, sweet soul. Until we meet again, hopefully soon, maybe tomorrow, if it feels good. If it's a baby step that comes across my way tomorrow, I'll be back. Otherwise, I will be back even sooner than that, probably. Thanks so much. Bye. Mwah. Thank you for listening to the Ascension Network podcast. This is where you'll find daily energetic upgrades to guide you through the intense transformational times we are navigating. Each message dives deeply into the frequencies of human life and gives new perspectives on how to shift them into higher states of being and higher states of global impact. Get full access to daily upgrades, plus monthly pyramid activations, weekly abundance code upgrades, weekly pop-up events, and the community, all within the Ascension Network. Learn more and join us at videttemeyer.com. I'm your host, Vidette Meyer, and as a collective, we are ascending into higher frequencies of being to hold space for all of humanity to ascend into the new earth.